What's up, Tappin' fam? We're back with another Shots O'Clock series where we bring you the insider secrets on the nightlife in your city by sitting down with the curators of the industry itself. We've done a lot of tapping in with DJs recently, but that's not all of the nightlife. Today, we have the privilege of sitting down with somebody up and coming in the comedy scene, founder of Follow the Crowd Comedy and producer of Don't Tell Comedy in Cleveland. Ladies and gentlemen, Connor Balderson.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
I
Pumped to be
appreciate
here, bro.
Yeah, yeah, likewise, likewise. Now, again, we've done a lot of tapping in with DJs and coordinators, but you are our first comedian in a sense.
Yeah. So it's fun, man. So I'm not a comic myself, so like I don't do stand up, So but we're dialed in the scene in
Okay.
terms of doing shows.
But your connection with the comedy scene is really what I want to
For
emphasize.
sure. Yeah. So yeah, the work we're doing, man, is it's fun going into our third year, fourth year doing comedy shows in Cleveland. The scene's great and it's been fun seeing it grow, not only just like our shows, but like other shows that have been popping up.
Yeah, yeah.
And people kind of being like, oh crap, like comedy? Like what?
Right.
Usually they don't realize that it's accessible as it is now, which is fun.
Okay, so to clarify, you're helping curate comedy shows and bringing other comics together and producing the sides of it.
Exactly,
Okay, I love that.
exactly. Yeah.
That's even better because that's kind of like what we're doing here is trying to expose more of the nightlife and finding a way to bring people the resources that they wouldn't normally get.
Right, usually falls on a DJ,
Yes.
and,
Yeah, yeah.
and comedy usually falls on a comic sometimes too. There's a
Okay.
lot of comics that produce their own shows, and do a great job at that.
So walk me through how you took this venture into producing comedy sets and shows.
Yeah, so I mean, during the pandemic, a lot of cities, LA, New York, were doing shows when all the clubs and stuff were closed, and you kind of had the idea, like, man, it'd be cool. Like, why isn't Cleveland doing that? And my girlfriend and I back in 2020, 21, were judging some comedy
Okay.
shows, and I was like, dude, there's so many, like, all local comics. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, there's so many funny people in Cleveland, like, just as a fan.
Yeah.
And then it kind of was, not an aha moment, but it was a moment where we're like, dang, like let's just do a show. Like, how fun would that be?
Okay.
Like, it's like, and it all kind of stemmed off of finding a cool space for it, where we were like, I wasn't thinking about a show and then found the venue. Actually, we found the venue and then I was like, oh, this would be a good spot to do a comedy show.
Okay.
So I think, approaching it, kind of in a backwards way,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was cool in like terms of like, okay, well, it's okay. And the venue was cool. Like, they were like, yeah, this sounds awesome. Like, you want to tell jokes? Like, all right, I was like, whatever, not me, but it's like, they were like neither nor there. And it was just kind I've always liked comedy. I've always been like a promoter at heart, kind of, and like doing things like that. And it just, you kind of, took off a little bit. So it's
Okay.
been cool.
So did you have a background in promotion prior to this? Had you done other events, things leading up, or did you just dive in head first?
Yeah. I mean, I went to school at Cleveland State, for marketing, promotions, and
Okay.
stuff. So I always wanted to work in marketing and music, or I always thought it would be in music, or in promotion with a brand or something like that. While I was going to school, I was interning with my mixtapes,
Mm.
which was super fun, helping them, promote Juicy J,
Oh,
Screaming
you
Lean,
were in the come up of life, say.
type shows. So like I always, being around those guys, being around EV, helping EV, I was a contributor on like Leak Jones back
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
day. Blogging, coming up with just like what's going on when blog, type of content was relevant. And so I've always had that kind of like curator like
Mhm.
mentality a little bit. And then, obviously things, social media and stuff gets bigger, and like how do you translate that into like real events? And like, okay, like obviously, I used to work for Eventbrite as a ticketing partner with a company here in Cleveland. So I got to learn some of like the ins and outs of Eventbrite a little bit. So I was able to apply that to like some of the comedy show stuff. So it's like taking, little pieces of
Right.
parts and bits, and
The tools that you had over the last decade and applying it.
yeah, and kinda being like, "Okay, no, we could do this." Like, especially now with resources like Canva, or, there's so many awesome photographers and stuff in the city that, like, can, help make it a little easier than even a handful of years ago to be able to release a show, release a
Right.
podcast, what have you. So it's been cool. It's been cool. I think the journey's been fun and seeing, just how promotional stuff has come and gone and how people apply it towards events, especially in like the scene or
Mm,
like
mm.
comedy is super cool. And then honestly, it's kind of thankful to the pandemic is kind of what born that a little bit.
Right, you had time. Yeah.
Well, the idea of like pop-up events taking places at venues that might not necessarily have welcomed something like that or been like, how do we do this? Or like, the things that, that are a little bit foreign to a venue, maybe like a coffee shop,
Right.
that'd be like, it's, yeah, we usually we do spoken word or something, but like, so but like the pandemic opened that up because they didn't have any customers, they
Late
didn't have
harvest.
anything and people also had to come out of the pandemic safely. So then they had to find events. So like our show when we first started doing comedy was called "It's Time to Laugh" because everyone was
Ah,
of like at the house and like it was time to laugh. We did hand sanitizer. We had the Ilthy hand sanitizers on all the
that's
tables and
fire. Marketing,
everything.
marketing.
Like, and little, we had the masks and but that was a way to kind of get people out. So, but I don't, who's to say if there was a pandemic, would we had done shows? I don't know.
I feel like a lot of people took that shift during the pandemic. Everybody picked up all types of hobbies or transitioned. I think it made us all realize how valuable our time was and to make better use of it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you kind of took that shift, especially what you've been able to do with the comedy scene here in Cleveland. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what is your approach to curating? Like, do you start with the venue? Do you start with the comics?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's the comics' favorite question to ask too. Like, how do I get booked on a show? But honestly, and it's I try to get out to shows as often as I can. I help judge Bill Squire's show at Brothers Lounge. He does every so often, which is a cool showcase where comics compete for $500 via some sponsorships. So he has rotating judges. And we kind of pick a couple comics, and then they go, and all the ones and twos from the show go on and then perform in a final round for the actual. So it's like a buildup of shows that end up going to this final round. So it's like super cool. So and then, the winner of that, it's like that's one you're like, dang, I won, Bill Squire's, contest. And Bill's obviously,
Made a name for
the
himself for
legend
sure.
in Cleveland when it comes to that. So being able to tap in with Bill on something like that is an awesome way to kind of, see who's, coming up and doing their things. We also love, being able to kind of spotlight venues and stuff too, which is super
Mm.
cool. So usually it's kind of a little bit of both, right? Like we just did a show at the Fifth Street Arcade, which was probably one of the most iconic shows like ever. And it came through with working with, the event lead at the slice shop on the corner to be able to kind of be like, hey, come in and let's do a show. And so sometimes it's cool when venues get excited about it too, that are like, "Yo, this would be a cool idea." And next thing you know, we're, it's like, "How big can we make this? How like cool can we? How like it's when I meet with venues, I'm like, how far do you want to go? You know what I mean? Like
Let's
we,
blink cat.
yeah, like yeah, like let's, I'm down to clown. So, which is fun, but I think locally, there's been a handful of comics that have come to shows potentially that have just been like, "Yo, can I jump on the show?" And the ask has just been so genuine that I couldn't say no. You know what I mean? Like, I've never met you a day in my life, bro. I've not seen you tell one joke.
But let's try it.
But, like, it's like, "Yo, bro," like, just like I'm like, "Cool, yeah, you wanna go?" Alright, because maybe my headliners run a little late or something, and like, "Bet, yeah, I do got 5 minutes to kill. Thank God you're here." Like, you know what I mean? So, like, there's always those moments too, and I kid you not, 99% of the time, those are the best comics that we end up building the best relationships
They're
with.
hungry.
And, like, 100%, they're, that's 100 spot on, like, they're willing, to
Yeah.
kinda do that. They didn't send a DM, or, like which is cool, I've done that too, that's part of the game too. It's like, you have to be able to put yourself out there, be vulnerable,
For
and,
sure.
be proud of your work as, comic, as independent comic, and, what I like to be able to do is hopefully just, build those relationships, help them, because the cosign goes a long way too. Bill, for example, was like, "Yo, my homie so and so is coming into town." 100%. You know what I mean? I don't need to see the tape from them. Like, if Bill's be like, "Bet, like, let's go." And there's a handful of other comics that I know that their word is 100% valid, and I would go off that. I think that's similar to like DJs and stuff too. It's like, or anything like an MC or something like
Yeah.
if you got people that have because there's so much now,
Yeah, yeah.
so it's like how do you curate kind of the good from the bad when everyone's just posting or whatever. So having good people in your corner to help vouch for folks, I think goes a long way in booking those shows.
I think that's absolutely true too. That's fire. I appreciate you sharing that with us. So as far as the comedy scene in Cleveland here is, I won't say most of us are unfamiliar with it. So you have the hilarities, but my introduction to comedy was actually, I think it's called Graffiti now. The Redstone. No, it's All Saints now. It used to be Redstone
Okay.
the
Yep.
other
Yep.
day.
Yep. Yep.
That's the first time I actually saw Bill Squires. Was they did comedy upstairs, little open mic.
Okay. Yep.
But people aren't as familiar. Do you mind listing through some of the areas where people can find comedy throughout?
100%. There's so many little, nooks and crannies around town. Obviously, our show's Father Crowd Comedy, which we predominantly do in Ohio City on West 25th. Our Don't Tell comedy shows we do all over Cleveland.
Mhm.
So, those shows we'll do in Ohio City, we'll do in Tremont, we'll do the Flats East Bank, the Flats West Bank.
Okay.
We pop all around. My guys at My Cousin Funny, Pope and Elliot, they do their show at the Happy Dog, so down in the Happy Dog basement, great little show they do, showcase style wise. I plug Bill's show at Brothers Lounge.
Yeah.
My guys over at Secret Society Comedy, they do a show at Mayhall's in Lakewood every Saturday at 11:30 in the apartment. Drop in comics from all over the country. Also the next up from Cleveland. So there's, and
That's just the surface.
that's just yeah, and we're just getting going. So it's cool that and there's so many more shows too, like a lot of good producers like Ramon, he does a show at Dunlap's
Mhm.
every Sunday. That's like an open mic type showcase style. Along with the duo over at Cantu Live, Stephanie and Peach Girls, they do a great show on Sundays too. So it's like when people are like, "Oh, I'm too busy to hit a show," it's like there's literally a comedy show Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like you can literally, and it's good. It's not like you're saying like, oh, like cool, right?
Right. It's got
Oh, right. Oh, you want me to go to the Wednesday show, right? No, it's like the same comics you're probably gonna see on like the show too. They're working their material, like,
yes. Yeah.
and you're gonna get, someone's in town. You never know. So, um,
I love
so
that. Yeah, yeah.
a lot of good
You
shows.
really just gave us a perspective, and that's really what this is about. I've said it on the last few episodes. There's always something to do in Cleveland every day of the week. You just either have to go looking for it, but most people don't know where to start looking, which is one of the reasons why we want to create this platform. Because of the knowledge you just dropped on us, again, I didn't know about half of those shows,
Yeah.
so I might have to go see comedy.
Yeah, yeah, facts. Yeah, there's one of the final rounds tonight that I think Bill's doing. But yeah, it's cool too. And I think they're all unique shows in their own way. It's not like it's like, oh, they're copying the or it doesn't feel like that at all. Like no one's like, oh, that's I've seen that show. It's like, no, it's pretty different. Like it's definitely different. Which is I think that's what makes it fun. So you're never gonna see this, you're not gonna feel like over fabricated,
Okay.
where you're like, oh, like I've seen one or that's not my cup of tea or something. And then obviously hilarities too. It's like that's if you're looking to see a national headliner and do a 60-minute all day, like that's your best bet.
I love the local scene though. I feel like again, you get the comics who are hungry and again they're testing their material, but you get more of the culture of the city.
Oh,
Right.
100%, 100%. We're working on, some projects coming up and stuff, that really kinda showcase that and really, most of our lineups feature, predominantly Cleveland,
Okay.
comedians, female comics, people of color, like, folks from out of town that are just dying to get to Cleveland, like, comics, and you're like, man, will you, book me? I'm dying to get to Cleveland."
Well, let's lean into that a little bit because you're actually starting a podcast to talk to comics and get some perspective. You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah, yeah. So we just had our headliner that was in town recently, Eva Evans, one of my good friends, one of the best comics in the game, like right now, BET,
Yeah.
Netflix is a joke. Really doing her thing. Her Don't Tell special is fantastic. Really pushing boundaries in, kind of the day and age narrative and
Yeah.
comedy. And how the response of certain communities came back to that was awesome. So
Yeah.
being able to sit down and talk to her about, her joke, like a viral joke, you know what I mean? Like, that was response was positive. Like a lot of times people don't, think, or most of the time response is not positive.
Yeah.
Like, and to see that with, someone like an Eva was awesome. So, yeah, we just sat down, shot the breeze for, 20, 30 minutes. Talked about the show from the night prior, and where what she had lined up for the next little bit. This is, we had her in Cleveland a couple years ago. Awesome headlining show. Then had her, she came out to did a show at the Improv. Then we brought her back out, and then she's been back out. This is now the third, fourth time I think she's been back to Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
She loves Cleveland, So building these relationships through comedy is awesome. Because it's cool. I love Cleveland, obviously. So it's like being able to have someone. I'm like, oh, that's Brown Stadium. I'm like, this
Oh,
is
right.
the
Right
tower.
here. Yeah.
Like, I'm like a little kid driving through a city. It's like, cool, dude. Like, but it's fun because that's, showcasing our city and like being proud of our comedy scene. So, like I mentioned, Secret Society.
Mm.
When we have an event in town or something, we'll do our show. We'll do another show the next night. Then she'll jump into the late night show.
Okay.
So it's cool that like I'm not like no one's like holding a comic
Right.
hostage
Yeah.
or something. Like it's like no, like let's
Yeah.
make
While you're
this
here, make
cool.
the use of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and someone like Aniva is cool about that too, where it's like, how many shows can I do on here?
Okay.
Because she's coming from New York, where it's like they want to do as many shows as possible, and
Yeah.
to be a city like Cleveland where we have a lot of shows that we are able to have. Oh yeah, so my dude's doing this, so we can
Okay.
go and do that. And build those relationships is like super cool. So, but yeah, the podcast is a fun way that like we can actually like dive in a little deeper and talk about Cleveland, talk about their career, and just have some fun, off a stage, like and get to know the comic, like as there as a person a little bit.
Okay, fire, fire. Well, I do want to lean into marketing a little bit because obviously you've been able to be so successful because not only do you have the background in marketing, but you've made these connections throughout the city. Now you say you're the, forgive me for misquoted, marketing coordinator or marketing manager,
Yep. Yep.
market
Yep.
guard at
Yep.
brewery.
Yep.
So you guys are already handling some of the clubs and the nightlife as far as promotion goes. And you've been able to tie that together with I'm from Cleveland, with Ilthy, with some of the other collaborators, not just in the nightlife, but curators of the city itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm the marketing manager with Market Garden Brewery, Ohio City Restaurant Group. Part of which, on West 25th, represents Market Garden Brewery, Brightside, Bird of Paradise, Nano Brew, Smoke and Mirrors, and Clandestina. So it's nice that it's a little mix of little brewery action, and then, also like the nightlife, as you mentioned. So it's been fun to tap into some, long time relationships and friendships like Evie, who I mentioned, with I'm from Cleveland, and to be able to do a brew with them or like an Ilthy, Kumar and Glenn, for example, to be able to do a brew with them for
Right, right. This is
years.
fire. I love
Yeah,
the city coming together and collaborating like that.
yeah, and drop, something fun, that's, seasonal and cool,
Mm.
and drinkable. So it's been, that marketing piece has been fun too, because it's like, you know, collaborations are definitely, everyone's doing collabs and stuff. So it's fun when you feel like, as a consumer, sometimes you're like, oh man, like if you're hip to one or
Right.
the other, you're like, oh my gosh, like, and it's also cool when you're not familiar with, the other brand, like
Mhm.
people that maybe were familiar with Illy maybe didn't during Market Garden or vice versa. And how cool is that to be able to then become maybe someone's favorite new brew or someone's favorite new like streetwear
Right,
brand
right.
that they might not have ever been familiar with, or maybe not yet at
Until that
least. Until
collaboration.
that moment. Like, and I just hope like brands, hold integrity to like some of their collabs because like that's what it's all about is like making it fun and fresh and stuff. But and then yeah, on the nightclub side of things, Bird of Paradise, it's fun being able to tap into like the nightlife of things,
Yeah.
right? Craft beer is cool. It's an industry that is, its own kind of beast in of itself. But then seeing how the nightlife kind of translates, especially in Cleveland, super fun. Especially like a Bird of Paradise where we're able to do shows. Like I booked my buddies that run like your emo club. My
Okay.
buddies Michael and John, they just won uh Cleveland's best dance party in Cleveland scene, I think, last year. So I'm super proud of them. So I booked them for Bird of Paradise, which was super fun. and we did it on Valentine's Day. So it was like an emo night, Valentine's Day,
Okay.
like your emo club party, packed house, 180, plus folks in the venue. And something like that is like, not a normal
Hmm.
event that you would find potentially at Bird of Paradise, but it was cool because like it's very nostalgic of a type event. Just the music that's played, it's something like that. And what I like just in regard of like, oh, let's work with, mutual friends and business friends and like to be able to bring together a collab, like it's fun to be able to work with friends and be like, yo, let's work together on like booking a show at one of the venues. So we've done that, with Emo Night was fun. Super pumped with, like, what Happy Endings is doing at Bird of Paradise, obviously. Nick Nack and Esso, that's, like, the only thing, like, I look forward for that's, like, fun, um, and just, like, on the street, that, a lotta, I think, people look forward to as well. So, it's fun that, that there's these moments happening around town that in the same venue, is an emo night,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next night is, like, a happy endings.
And it's been
But it's
great.
pretty sweet.
It's been great also because even prior to meeting you and having this conversation, we had worked together indirectly because Tappin and Tastemakers did an event at Smoke and Mirrors
Yep,
and Bird in Paradise.
yep.
So then seeing the promotion come together or the follow up from that, now I know who's clicking the buttons behind the scenes.
Yeah, and there's a team too, my guy Devin does a great job helping with, like, some of the social accounts and
Yeah.
creating content and stuff, so, yeah, it's like, let's all work together and, elevate and, make content and post it out there and spread the word about Cleveland.
Awesome, beautiful. Well, let's dive in a little deeper to some of these key questions. What is one thing you feel Cleveland has that other cities don't have?
I think Cleveland has, I mean, there's a sense of community for sure that in the terms of the comedy scene, I'll speak to that. When some comics come to town from New York or LA or something, they're like, "And you guys really are like a brotherhood." I've heard that word before, and I was like, "Whoa!" Like, that was, oh, geez, like then you can kind of take a step back and we're all hanging out after a show, late night, or even not in those moments, like the little clusters of comics that are just like, that have each other's back. So I think the community, the brotherhood piece is super interesting. That, hopefully folks are, elevating each other and like having each other's back in that sense, because
Mhm.
it's like, let's all elevate, it's Cleveland. People talk about the Chicago comedy scene. People talk about LA. They talk about Austin's comedy scene. Like, let's talk about Cleveland's comedy scene. And like, if someone's trying to like do it themselves, it's like, that's gonna be hard. Yeah. So like, I think that's a cool thing though that we do have is like this sense of like Cleveland pride that we
Mhm.
can all latch to something, and whether if it's comedy, from being a fan or like wanting to just like be a comic and help, elevate, yourself as an artist,
Mhm.
and hopefully you can bring the scene, along with you because obviously you want to be able to work for what you're working towards.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's truly what Cleveland is, a sense of pride and like latching onto something as a group, and forming a sense of connection then naturally out of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that was very well put. I appreciate the
Yeah.
in-depth answer. uh, what's one thing that you feel is missing from the Cleveland nightlife scene, be it in comedy or the club setting? That's one thing you feel we don't have here.
I don't know. I think just like stuff that's unique and like, like that's so mean to say. It's like it was like unique. Like, no, like I don't know. I think like just something that's just not going out, right? It's like something that's like even if it's literally going out, but we call it something else, like or something like, like that's my favorite. It's like this is literally. It's like yeah, it's literally what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I've met with a few other people, and they say what we do have also is like the unique event space to where it's more than just the clubs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's not like it's not just going to hit the club. So I hear what you're saying in the sense of not just going out, but like we're still going out, but with
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think too, like, I saw like the other night Flacco had like an MC and I thought that was really refreshing. Like to see
Okay.
like
Yeah.
someone that was hyping him up during the set, hyping the
Yeah.
crowd up during the set, shouting out the Pisces,
Yeah.
shouting out the birthdays. I was like, oh, this feels like I was like, okay, like, um, and like that's my guy AJ, like I'm not saying it telling AJ to get on the mic all of a sudden, but like having like just something that was like a little different
Ah,
was kind of
more of a
refreshing.
dynamic.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think, like, it was cool to see that, and I feel like I haven't seen that kinda in a while. Maybe I haven't seen Flacco set in a while, but, Flacco's my guy, but I was like, "That was fun." Like, I really enjoyed that, and having, who doesn't want to see somebody hyping somebody up
Yeah.
and like it just elevated the vibe and like
You heard him bring back the MCs. Rare.
like that's like that yeah like I don't know I mean there's something there but yeah I don't know there's something to like curating that vibe that maybe isn't
Yeah.
it's not like oh my gosh it doesn't mean like spend a lot of money and like put
Yeah.
spend do like a promo but maybe it's like a little skit or something that like builds the hype up for something that is just going out
I
but
got you. Okay.
Who's got a lot
More
we
original.
got a lot of creative, so I don't know, there's gotta be
Get
something
creative.
there. Yeah, there gotta be something there.
I love that. What do you feel currently has the best Cleveland nightlife scene between like downtown, Tremont, Coventry, the Flats, Ohio
Everyone's
City?
bringing the game, which has been cool, it's cool that there's, like, seasonality, to a lot of it, I think, it was really what it comes down to. I don't think anyone, like, owns 24/7, like, the nightlife scene, and I think that's also what makes Cleveland truly unique in of itself too, right? Like, we have seasons, we have, different times a day where people don't wanna they've been at hanging out at Edgewater all day,
Yeah.
or but, we have a foot of snow outside, like, it's so I've been gravitating towards Ohio City, obviously a little bit
Uh,
more. Love going to Bird of Paradise for an AJ, a Happy Endings, where it's gonna be kind of like a low key night, but
okay.
still going out.
Right.
Like that's kind of what I like.
That's where we're at that
Yeah.
at this stage in life.
But I tell my girlfriend, I'll be like, I just want to go and hear loud music. Like I think that's important. Like we have a good, system at Bird, like Forward, places like that where the quality of music, not just like the mix, but like it's
It's gonna sound good, yeah.
and good.
Yep.
Like, I'm like a weirdo like that, and, like, I'm like, if the music's, like, doesn't sound right or, like, it's, like, the high you know what I mean? Like, I just, like, like so and maybe it's a little OCD or something, but I
Oh,
don't
no,
know, yeah.
you're a man of great taste. You know what you want, you know?
No, but, yeah, I think that's so, yeah, like, Ohio City for me.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I got you. I got you. So, where do you see yourself? And we'll broaden this a bit. Where do you see yourself and the comedy scene within the next 5 years?
Is for me, I'd love to be, truly kind of repping comics, managing comics, helping them, booking and like, promoting themselves. So then ultimately, get paid, right? Like get booked and get gigs, get hired, get better representation or like all of that stuff. With social, definitely in that vein, full go. And then for the scene too, I think there's gonna be way more comics that are producing shows. I think that are like, maybe there's. I hope it's not oversaturated, but like, where they're like, where I'm like, well, there's 2 shows on Tuesday, there's 3 shows on Wednesday, like, but I think that's which would be a good thing too, right? If like we hit that, and I hope we get some folks. I hope maybe we get some banger comics. Like, what's cool about Austin right now is a lot of comics, New York and LA are going to Austin to launch their careers. I wish we got some more comics to come and launch their careers in Cleveland, because we do have enough stage time. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like, and that's really all you need. And like
yeah,
our crowds are good. We
yeah.
have good crowds and available stages. It's like
That's
it's
the
like
fundamentals.
like there, so and you have producers that are doing awesome shows. So, if in 5 years we're doing that well, and we have a couple comics and that some comics from Cleveland have also popped up.
Okay.
So like we
Yes.
got a couple OG launchers coming.
Yeah.
We've now entered the scene, and then we've all just kind of elevated. I think would be sick.
I love that. I love that. Well, I appreciate you giving us that insight. Again, I feel like a lot of people aren't as familiar. It's like either you're in the comedy scene or you're looking for it
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
So I appreciate you shedding light on that for sure. You have any upcoming events that you want to let the people know about?
Yeah, yeah, we got shows all the time. So, you usually can catch our Don't Tell shows once a month, if not more around town. We got some shows coming up. The Flats East Bank in Ohio City. We also got the Cleveland Comedy Awards coming up March 13th. So it'll be
Mm.
super dope. Nominated for a Producer of the Year award there. So that should be sick.
Fire.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Thank you. Hopefully we can bring something awesome nominations that are up for that too. So just a plug there. And yeah, I think it's gonna be an awesome event. That's at Hilarities as well. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing all the other awesome comics and nominees. Just shedding light on that Cleveland comedy scene.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Connor, I appreciate you taking the time to tap in with us once again. Be sure to tap in with Connor at Follow the Crowd Comedy and Don't Tell Comedy. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you curate a few more shows in the near future.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely,
I'm
absolutely.
tapped in, bro.
I like that.